School District Board of Trustees meeting on Tuesday, August 11th, 2026. At this time, we will start the meeting. Agenda item number 1, adoption of the agenda. This is action item. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Trustee Varner, seconded by Trustee Roberts. Public comment? Seeing none, all in, what do I normally say? All in favor? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Agenda item number 2, flag salute. This will be presented by Trustee Roberts.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 3, superintendent's report. This is for information only. Superintendent Fueling, what do you have for us this evening?
Thank you, President Wall. We have a school year that is about to start. We have our certified staff returning tomorrow and a whole lot going on here over the next 3 days. Just a reminder that school does not start until Tuesday, the 18th, not on Monday. I know that likely might cause a little bit of confusion, so we'll be prepared for that at our sites, but just very excited to get kids back and get the energy again. I would invite you on that first day of school, come stand out front of one of the elementary schools, because it is lights out energy. It is intense and fun, and there's a lot of like screaming of happiness, and there are tears, usually from kindergartners. But it is so much fun. So looking forward to having everyone back. There's been a lot of preparation that has gone into this year, and just really excited to have a great school year. So thank you.
Thank you. And then I do want to compliment the school district and those who were involved in the Friday breakfast for all of the new teachers. That was very well attended, and it was a very good event. So thank you. All right. Moving on to agenda item number 4. These are board reports. Board member comments for information only. We'll go ahead and start with Nevada Association of School Boards update. Trustee Varner?
No report tonight.
Okay. All right, then we'll go ahead and start down at the end with Trustee Ramirez with our school reports. Do you have a school report?
Yes, I do. From the Silver Campus, Dr. Molden reminds us that the open house is on September 1st at the Silver Campus at 6 p.m. And other than that, they're excited to bring in a new year and excited to welcome new staff and new students that are currently enrolling at the Silver Campus. And then from Mrs. Cruikshanks, her only report was that they are excited about the back to school night this coming Thursday, August 13th at 4:30 p.m.
Great, thank you. Trustee Roberts?
Yes, this is exciting. It's Mrs. Conmay's first school board report, so just big welcome to her. And she said the Fremont staff would like to give a special thank you to our amazing custodial team. They've worked hard all summer to make sure our school is clean, safe, welcoming, and ready for the return of our students and staff. We're so grateful for all they do each day. Thank you for helping make Fremont a wonderful place to be. Teachers and staff are starting to return to campus and are busy getting their classrooms ready. There's a lot of excitement going through the building as they get ready to welcome the students back. Wednesday and Thursday, staff will participate in professional development, and this year they're going to be focusing on helping students build connections, feeling a sense of belonging and safety at school. As a professional learning community, we will continue to learn and grow together and strengthen our practices to better support our students. Their goal for 26-27 school year is to keep the students learning at the forefront keep student learning at the forefront of all that we do. Our staff will work together with a shared focus on student learning and growth. We will learn from one another, strengthen our instructional practices, and make adjustments to better meet the needs of every student. Most importantly, we want every student to feel known, valued, connected, and supported so they can thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. They're looking forward to welcoming the students back, and their back to school events will be 1st through 5th grade. This Friday, August 14th, there's 3 sessions, 4:30, 5:15, and 6. They'll attend whatever works best for you, have a brief presentation, and then get to find out their student teachers and classrooms. And then for pre-kindergarten and kindergarten, their back to school night will be Wednesday, August 19th. Pre-kinders will meet at 5:30, and the kindergarten families can choose between the 4:30 or 5:30 session.
Great, thank you. Trustee Peterson?
I have Carson High. They are excited to welcome students back for the 26-27 school year. We have the Senator kickoff was yesterday, and that was where grades 12, 11, and 10 come pick up their schedules, pay their fees, and make sure everything is sorted out so they can hit the ground running on Tuesday, not Monday. And then today was the big blue welcome for the freshmen to come have a little extra time on campus, getting familiar and comfortable, and excited to start their high school career. So things are getting moving. Also Friday, summer graduation for the senators that needed a little extra time. And then this Friday, they already have their first football game playing Dayton. And then she adds, our wildly important goal this year is centered on increasing student attendance, engagement, and connectedness. We encourage all families to reach out if there's anything Carson High can do to support them.
Great, thank you. Trustee Varner?
Yes, I have a report from Silliger. They're excited to welcome students, staff, and families back to school for another successful year. They'll be hosting their back-to-school night on Thursday, August 20th from 4:30 to 6:30 or 6 p.m. And then from Eagle Valley Middle School, they're excited to welcome students and family back for the 26-27 school year. Please join them for their EVMS Back to School Boot Camp, which will be held on Thursday, August 13th, 2026, and actually 2 days from now. And the boot camp schedule is 6th grade will be from 3:30 to 4:15 p.m., 7th grade from 4:15 to 5 p.m., and 8th grade will be from 5 p.m. to 5:45 p.m. They invite all students and parents to attend the boot camp during, kind of redundant here. During boot camp, students will have the opportunity to receive their class schedules, locate the classrooms, and meet their teachers, and become familiar with the campus before the first day of school. Principal Hoppy, Vice Principal Lineham, and Dean of Students, Mr. Masato, will be available throughout the event to welcome students and families and answer any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And for myself, I will report on Empire Elementary School. Ms. Virgil mentions that they are looking forward to having staff and students back at their site. Their kinder and pre-K meet and greet will be August 19th at 2:30 to 3:30, and their back to school family night will be August 21st from 5:30 to 7 at Empire. Note for all board members as well, we do get all of these dates sent to us from Renee. Thank you, Renee, for doing that. And then, so if you have to refer back to attend, just refer back to that email, and all those dates are there for us as well. I'd also like to report that as the liaison, the school board liaison for the Parks and Rec Commission, we on Friday had a ribbon cutting for the pickleball courts. And so that was very exciting. There is, if you haven't been over there, it does look really, really nice. The city and the pickleball community have done a great job. So that was exciting. And then as president of Rotary, the grants will be open for the schools. And so there are going to be up to $5,000. So we encourage, the grant announcement will be Monday, August 24th, but I guess it's actually today. And then the grants are due October 2nd. So I would encourage, and if we can get your support to encourage all staff to apply for those grants, greatly appreciate that as well, because that's always a great thing that is from the community. Okay. Yes.
Sorry, I'm so looking for like future forward right now. I forgot a couple things from last week, so I just wanted to say thanks to Miss Renee for putting together and organizing so much stuff here at the beginning of the year, including our first principals meeting, which was Tuesday. Great having all those folks back. And then also to kudos to Mary Prey for that of the event you mentioned on Friday. It was really well done. She welcomed. We had kind of onboarding back in on Wednesday, the 5th, and there was up at Carson High School that went really well. And then the event at the governor's mansion was fantastic. She had the coolest PowerPoint I've ever seen put together, with like images of herself, years ago as a starting teacher. It was really cool. I got told by one of our staff members, a different staff member that was working with some of our new hires at the end of the day Friday, and she said multiple of our new teachers were in tears because the new hire days were so good and just felt so welcomed being here. Like it was the best experience they've ever had coming into a new workplace. So I think it just says a lot for all that Mary does and all the folks that get involved with that. So thank you to Renee and Mary.
Great, thank you. Anything else? All right, we'll go ahead and close agenda item number 4 and move on to agenda item number 5. This is association reports for discussion only. Seeing that we have none, we will close 5 and move on to agenda item number 6, public comment. Renee, did we have any written, emailed in public comment?
Yes, thank you, President Walt. We had public comment submitted via email from Kelsey Penrose. The comments were forwarded to the board members, and copies were provided this evening. They will also be included in the permanent record.
Great, thank you. Do we have any public comment in the room? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close agenda item number 6. Public comment, move on to agenda item number 7. This is discussion and proposed changes for policy 113, reporting student progress. First reading for discussion only, and this is presented by Mr. Bringhurst.
Good evening, trustees. Brandon Bringhurst, Chief Academic Officer, for the record. So as we look at policy 513, as we went through last school year, one of the changes that we worked on making was particularly centered around how we do elementary grading. We had been using a grading platform, grading and assessment platform that, as we listened to our staff and our parents, realized that that platform wasn't serving the needs in a way it needed to serve our needs. So we went through a process of transitioning from that platform to doing grading in Infinite Campus in order to be better serve the needs of our students and staff, teachers, as well as parents, so they could get accurate, timely, useful information. In that process, as we went through some of that review, we noted that there were some changes or some updates that needed to be made in our grading policy and regulation, as those hadn't been updated in some time. So that's a little bit of the reason why we're coming to you today with some updates for this policy. The only change that we are recommending in the board policy 513, you will see there, is changing the percentage that we would consider proficient or at standard. It would remain 80% at the secondary level, but at the elementary level, that would be set at 75%. Through some discussions, a lot of discussion with our elementary leaders, our principals, as well as our elementary instructional coaches, felt that this 75% on our 4-point scale, and we'll talk a little bit more about the 4-point scale in the regulation, but that the 75% would be more reflective of proficiency for students and is more developmentally appropriate for those at the elementary level. So that is the change that we're recommending in policy 513.
Are there any questions? I just have one. So, and you might have addressed this, but what brought this forward? Was it due to the fact that you wanted it to go to the 75 is what brought it forward, or were you just reviewing and saying, oh, this hasn't been updated in a while, so we're going to go ahead and?
So we started reviewing it because we were changing our grading platform from one program to another. And as we went through that change, we started to look more in depth at what our grading practices were and realized that we needed to get some things up to date. And so that's why we dove in here to 513 and recognized that there were some changes that needed to be made to better align what's in the policy with what we believe would be best practices for our students.
But the grading platform isn't changing from last year to this year.
It is.
To what? Oh, it's in the, oh, on that note.
At the elementary, I should clarify, at the elementary level.
But,
it is.
okay, yes, okay. All right. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead.
Has there been any consideration to adding timely as one of the bullet points? Like a timely grade, like that they would be entered in a certain window.
You mean the teacher entering in the grades in a timely manner?
Yeah, that they're accurate, consistent, meaningful, supportive, and timely, I think is a helpful. I don't know, as a parent, when I check in, and it's really helpful when the grades are timely, because you know your child's status and where they might be struggling or falling behind, but does that? Did I miss that? Okay. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it
So
is in that
there
first
but
paragraph.
It's not on a bullet.
It's not
Okay. Thank you.
specified out in the bullet. The timely is, I agree, important. It's a little bit difficult to quantify what is timely. Grading some things takes a lot longer than grading other things. Grading an essay along paper takes more time to grade than, but we do need to have grades put in a timely manner so parents as well as students know where they stand and what needs to be done to improve that. I will look at that and see if there's some wording we could put in there to better specify what is intended there with timely.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
As far as, okay, I might be jumping ahead, so tell me if I need to wait, but with the grading scale that I'm seeing on the next agenda item 8, I know how the elementary works with the like 1 to 4 scale. So how does that compute into 75%? How are you calculating that?
Yeah, so that 75 would be, and you see that on the regulation, which we'll talk more about in the regulation, but I think it is maybe helpful to understand that, why that 75% would be here in the policy. 75% would be the 3.
Okay.
And then 3.5 is 85%, and a 4 would be 92%. That's how
Okay,
those percentages would break down.
That makes sense. I saw on the higher grades, their explanation of A, B, C, D, F, or A, B, C, D, F, and where those percentages land, but I didn't see it for the grades K through 5, so I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, and I think one of the changes there to note, or one of the differences is in K-5, we have a 3.5, whereas in the secondary, we really just go A to B.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason for that 75.
Okay, and that's shooting for about 3.
A 3. Mm-hmm.
Level.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
On that note, then I'm going to go ahead and ask my questions that I would be asking for the next one too.
Do you want me to start going through that?
Yeah, if
okay.
you wouldn't. So we're going to go ahead and leave agenda item number 7 and move on to 8. And then in future, on this note, has it always just been, or can we do regulation first and then policy? Or should we do policy and then regulation?
You can do whatever you want.
Okay, so
together? Like,
Or, no, you
or
can't do it
you can't do 'em
together.
together,
You can't do
okay.
it together, but maybe if we start looking at the regulation first and then policy.
You
What
could
do you
do the first reading discussion only together if you wanted, because they're both discussion.
Oh, okay.
The policy requires action on this, on the
On
second
the,
reading.
okay, so then second reading.
okay.
Okay. So in the future then, Ms. Renee, when we do the agenda, if it's a first reading, can we do the policy and the regulation together? Is one agenda item? And then whoever's president want to change it after that, you can, but
I just think it's helpful because
It
it kind
is,
of goes
because
together.
we're
And I'm like,
jumping
I
back
don't
and
know if I
forth,
can
yeah.
ask this, but like,
I
I don't
then
want to
you-
miss my opportunity
yeah.
to ask it.
You open
So
the door,
sorry,
so then I have
sorry.
questions too. So let's go ahead and do the
All right.
regulation.
So as we look at the Regulation 513, going through the changes that we're recommending here, you'll see that same change from 75% at the elementary level. The next change that we're recommending is a couple of paragraphs down. What had been in the policy was that students in grades kinder through fifth grade would take home a weekly folder, which will include the information that's listed out there. As we reviewed this as a district, felt that we needed to modernize and update this to be more current with current practices and best practices. And that's where a lot of our communication is not necessarily in a weekly folder, but that we use electronic communication. As you guys know, our teachers use Parent Square, teachers as well as administrators as kind of the primary form of communication. We did not specify Parent Square in here because those things might change, but instead what we specified was district-approved electronic communication methods. We still very much value the communication with parents and just needed to modernize what that communication looks like. That's similar in the paragraph after that. It specified some methods of communication when students are receiving intervention, and that is really spelled out in more detail in our MTSS, or multi-tiered system of support practices. And so we wanted to align the language there to refer to those MTSS practices so that we didn't have different practices in two different places. Really, those notification about interventions happen through our MTSS model. And then on page 2, you see that breakdown. Interestingly, what had been in the regulation was just 1, 2, and 3. And as those of you who might have elementary age students know, we have been doing 1, 1.5, 2, 3, and 4s, but that was not in the regulation, so hence part of the need for updating this regulation. So the elementary grades would score 1 through 4, including these 0.5 intervals, and then the proposed language that kind of describes what each one of those levels means is listed there. So on that 4, that these are students who are demonstrating advanced knowledge and skills, fully meeting or exceeding expectations. 3.5, demonstrating a deeper understanding with high consistency. 3.0, successfully demonstrates proficiency. 2.5, moving toward meeting grade level expectations, understands core concepts but needs more consistency. A 2.0 shows foundational knowledge but with limited complexity, often requiring support. A 1.5, understanding of grade level expectations is emerging, inconsistently applies basic skills. And a 1.0 does not consistently demonstrate grade level skills, indicating a need for additional support. Those are the changes that we are proposing to Regulation 513.
Sorry, questions? Okay, so I do have a few.
Okay.
With this change, does the district have a plan on how it will be communicating this change to the parents and the families?
Is there a specific part of the change that you're referring to, or the change overall?
The overall, or primarily the 75% of the elementary level, and then going, the 1 through the 4, and then eliminating the weekly folder, going straight to electronic communication.
I will certainly work with our elementary principals to make sure that we have a consistent model to communicate this out to the parents clearly so they know what these are. I think a lot of our elementary grading has already been following these 1 through 4. So I don't know that some of the parents won't necessarily see it as a change. We're really getting the regulation to more closely reflect to reflect our practice. But I agree with you that we need to make sure that we are communicating what these changes are and how it will impact student and family partnerships with the school district. So I will work together with our principals so that we've got some clear communication with them.
Because it's, my understanding as well as, and when I was a parent, when I did have students within the school district, recently, the electronic communication is what I found to be more relevant. And because we were informed quite quickly, I mean, it was sometimes informed before the child even got home, you were informed of, whether or not. So do we find as a district that this communication and the way that it's being communicated is informing the parents, if the child is struggling, better than what we may have been doing in the
Yeah,
past?
absolutely. And there's no, I think, perfect form of communication. Communication is complex and challenging, but when we rely on more paper communication, there's just a lot more variables at play there. Sometimes that paper never makes it home.
Correct.
Sometimes the paper makes it home, but it's in the pile of all of the other papers that are at home. And I think that we all, in today's day and age, so much of our communication is electronic, and you're regularly getting your notifications and checking things through your electronic devices. And so this really more modernizes our practices with what we feel is more effective communication that really reflects how we communicate in our current times.
I would agree, because I do see that, like, even at, soccer practices, or, parents are on their phone and they're getting those notifications. And so I would agree. So I appreciate you bringing this forward.
And I would add to that, there has been some question or concern that, sometimes there are notifications that's helpful to go out, paper. This doesn't mean that we will stop all paper communication, right? It just aligns this with our current practices, but there will still be flyers that get sent home and those sorts of things that go home on a regular basis. It just won't be tied to this specifically about behavior and all of this. It would be communicated weekly through a folder.
Great. I appreciate that.
So
And then-
may I follow up on
Yes.
that question? Okay, so just for clarification, so the fact that parents will no longer receive that folder, would that be communicated via paper?
I think it'd be important for us to communicate that both ways. If those who might be used to getting something in paper, we need to make sure that we get them that in paper and say, hey, your primary communication method, this is what it's going to look like, and as well as electronic.
Thank you.
If I'm not mistaken, the schools have been sending home the peaches for a few years now, right? Been using those?
That's correct. I think those being sent home has not been consistently done for a few years. If you want to see an example of the peachy, we have an artifact on the wall in the district office next to some of the other historical artifacts that we have in the district
I
office.
know what they are. I stuffed many a peachy.
All right, are there any other additional questions? All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
And so that will close then agenda item number 8 as well. Moving on to agenda item number 9, this is discussion and possible action to approve the proposed changes to the following objective policies of the Carson City School District Board of Trustees. This is for second reading. This is policy 104, 106, 107. Discussion and possible action on changes proposed to policy 104, 106, and 107 follows the discussions heard therefore at the meeting of the Carson City School Board of Trustees on June 23rd, 2026, and further discussion and presentation of proposed changes at the meeting at the Carson City School District Board of Trustees held on July 28th, 2026. And this is for possible action. This is for second reading. Do we have any questions, comments? Discussion? Hearing none.
I only have one minor correction. For policy 106 on page number 2, item number 5, we talked about adding the hyphen to decision-making, and that was omitted, so that's the only thing. And again, number 5, item number 5?
I'm sorry, would you please repeat that?
Yes, so that would be policy 106, and that would be page number 2, item number 5, on the families, our full partners section.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth line, fourth line from the top, decision-making needs to be hyphenated. We talked about that.
Okay,
It was just omitted.
thank you.
That's the only one.
All right, hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion. I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees approve August 11th, 2026 as a revised date on the following objective policies of the board. Policy 104, non-discrimination. Policy 106, parent involvement policy. Policy 107, non-discrimination under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 as amended, and the American with Disabilities Act of 1990 as amended.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion by trustee Varner, seconded by trustee Ramirez. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Let the record reflect that there is an opposition from from trustee Peterson. And
So President Walt, just for the record, so everybody's clear, we have 2 missing trustees tonight. You have 5. The open meeting law still requires a vote of 4 to pass any action, and that's what you had, so the motion passes.
yes, yeah, so motion passes. Okay, thank you. Closed agenda item number 9. Moving on to agenda item number 10. This is discussion to consider 2027 legislative session bill draft request for the Carson City School District to eliminate the Nevada Education Performance Frame, acronym NEPF, for discussion only. And this is brought to us by Superintendent Fueling, Mr. Bringhurst, and Mr. Karstens. Welcome.
Them up here for the eye candy. They're as they're flanking me. Thank you, President Walt, trustees, AJ Fueling for the record. This evening, bringing to you for consideration, and this is not an item for approval at this point, but consideration of a potential bill draft request that we have been kicking around for a while, and I think there's been a lot of feelings shared on this topic for many years that I've been here. During the legislative session, or I should say leading up to the legislative session, all school districts are given one bill draft request that can be considered during the legislative session. I believe Clark and Washoe get 2, but we're not as special. So we get 1. And historically, we've taken advantage of that, at least since I've been here a couple times. In 2017, we had a bill draft, and then in 2023, at the end of my first year in this role, we had a bill draft. So this one, or I should say, so the bill draft ultimately is something coming from the school board. So it takes your approval. I included in the packets the form that I have to fill out and submit, just so you can kind of see what that looks like. I have not actually filled it out just yet because my goal this evening is just to get a sense of, again, we're not you're not voting, but just to get a sense of support. Because if we do bring this forward for approval, there's just some more work that has to be done. And I guess I don't want to get into all that work if there really isn't seemingly support for it. So the consideration, the bill that I would like you to consider would be one to eliminate the Nevada Educator Performance Framework, or NEPF. And I do apologize, when I put this together, actually the agenda item says Nevada Education Performance Framework. And that got me a couple phone calls of confusion. So I do apologize for that. The Nevada Educator Performance Framework. And I'll just refer to it as the NEPF. So that is our required statewide evaluation system for certified staff, including our teachers and school administrators across the state of Nevada. It has been in effect for quite a while. And the history of it is a little interesting, and I think important in just kind of how we frame this and how you think about it. So it came about sometime between 2009 and 2011 through reauthorizations of No Child Left Behind and all the Race to the Top legislation. There were there was a setup to incentivize states, and you know how the federal government oftentimes they want something to happen, and so there are dollars dangled, and they're not mandating it, but if you do this, then we'll give you access to funds. And so that's kind of how this came about. And one of the requirements at that time was for states to develop statewide evaluation systems for staff. Wanting to take advantage of that opportunity, the state passed AB 222 back in 2011, which authorized the creation of the NEPF. Validation studies were conducted in 2013 under Assembly Bill 407, and then in 2015, AB 447, observation requirements were refined and clarified. And then in the 2015-2016 school year, it rolled out with full implementation. So this has been in full effect for 10 years. And so the question, I guess the first question is, well, are you bringing something that there's still like strings attached for the state? And the answer is no. There is no federal mandate. There are no incentives that remain for states to continue to use this evaluation system. So in 2015, which is pretty incredible, actually, it was only 4 years later after it kind of came into initial legislation at the federal level. The Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA as it was known, of 2015, which was the reauthorization of the No Child Left Behind again, brought a shift. And so that explicitly prohibited the federal government from mandating or incentivizing teacher evaluation systems. So there was no more rewards for states doing that. And so the NEPF, as it continues right now, is by the choice of the state, not under any requirements at the federal level. And so I think a fair question is, how successful has this been at improving Nevada's education system? It's been in effect for, again, a little over a decade. There does not appear to be a tie between staff evaluation scores and having successful schools after a decade of data. This is something that greatly frustrates legislators. It especially came up at the last legislative session, because you have, and I forget the percentage, it's over 90% of teachers are rated effective or highly effective in the state. Yet, if your judgment is, well, then how successful are our schools? If what we gauge that as is by star rankings, by stars, it appears that there really has not been a benefit over the last decade to doing this. There has not been significant movement across the state. And so in this last session, what came out of that was making some adjustments to the NEPF itself, trying to kind of recalibrate the tool, and then really doubling down on training requirements. And I think I've mentioned this to you, but what that has become is 21 additional hours of training for all of our school administrators, which we just started actually last week. And I think from our standpoint that doesn't fix the ultimate problem. It's just like you have this system that seemingly isn't doing much, and like it hasn't for a while, and trying to tweak and tweak and tweak when there are maybe some more fundamental concerns about it. This evaluation system, and I don't know if any of our staff has ever talked to you about it. I have had many conversations about it over the years. It is incredibly time intensive for our staff, for administrators and teachers, taking time that could otherwise be used towards things that I think would be more to students' benefit. And it is incredibly labor intensive on both sides of that. Mr. Bringhurst had done some figuring of, if an administrator is doing all the work they need to do to complete a single evaluation, what does that actually take? And his estimation is it takes about 11 hours for one post-probationary teacher. And then to think we have administrators that have, they're easily doing evaluations of 20 plus any given year. That's a significant amount of time given to going through the evaluation system and process. And I asked Mr. Bringhurst and Mr. Carson's to be up here, kind of, they've lived this a little bit more, and if there is anything else you'd want to add to kind of explaining that or giving context.
As Mr. Fueling said, it certainly takes a lot of time. Much of that time is certainly valuable time. It's observing teachers and providing feedback to teachers. The NEPF requires a lot of compliance and technical components to that make it take a lot longer to complete. As I said, as Mr. Fueling said, this is an estimate of about 11 hours for a post-probationary teacher. You need to remember that a probationary teacher, a first-year teacher, instead of one formal observation, you're required to do 3 formal observations. So everything starts adding up pretty quickly. And this doesn't include the time that you spend on teachers, what are called SLGs. If you've heard teachers refer to doing their SLGs, that's part of the NEPF work. SLG stands for Student Learning Goals. Right? Yes. Those are soon to be changing to EGGs as part of what was explained as doubling down on some of this. And it's just more regulation. And we certainly want to observe teachers, provide feedback to teachers. We find that to be very valuable. We want our administrators to do that. We just want some flexibility in how we do that to tailor it to the needs of Carson City School District and do it in a way that is more directly impactful on student outcomes instead of the time that goes in to compliance with a system that has become pretty burdensome.
Dan Carson, for the record. Good evening, trustees. I agree. The NEPF is very long. I mean, it's 11 hours is a lot of time to spend on one evaluation, and for our probationary employees, it's quite a bit longer. We're going to spend a lot of time with our probationary employees anyway. But one of the biggest things that this assumes is that the most that when we focus on this much, the most growth that we anticipate is from the principal or the administrator to the teacher, which goes in direct contrast to what we're trying to do with our PLC process. PLC process develops a team. I know, Mr. Varner, you came and watched some of our teams in action, and some of our other trustees did as well. But when you see those teams working together, you can see the learning taking place from our colleagues. I know a guy I worked with when I was in Utah. He was a principal in Colorado, and what he told his staff is that I'm going to do the bare minimum on teacher evaluation. So a lot of our principals, they spend an hour and a half in that classroom during each observation. What some of our principals may not know is that the minimum time you have to be in there is half hour for a formal observation. You don't have to be in there for 90 minutes. And so this guy did the bare minimum of what it took to be in compliance with teacher evaluation. But he also said our goal is to be a model PLC school. And by lessening that burden on our teachers and placing the emphasis on learning from each other and making sure that all of those processes are in place for the PLCs, he did become a model PLC school by focusing in on that PLC process. And what it means to become a model PLC school is you have to show action, or not actionable, but data that shows growth over time. Over a 3 years time, you're growing from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 on specific assessments, meaning our SBAC, meaning our ACT tests. And so they showed substantial growth over that time, over the course of 3 years, by putting in those processes, and you have to document all of your processes. That's where all their time went. That's where all their learning came from.
So the question, why does Nevada still use the NEPF? I think to some extent, it's this idea of a sunk cost, which is kind of a finance term, but also used in psychology. When you have put so much time, a decade, and human and financial resources have been invested in something, it's hard to put it aside, right? There's so much invested in this at this point. And then I think there is still a belief that the way you improve the work, and here teachers and administrators, but in general in society, that there's a belief that evaluations are what improves the work of people. And that is in direct contrast to what a lot of research says, that evaluations are not the way that you actually improve your staff. You improve the work that's being done. And I think we see that with, in this case, rather limited evidence of the effectiveness of the NEPF to improve things, improve results in our schools. So again, this started with a federal push. And you might ask, how many states continue to do this? How many have stayed, even though the feds aren't requiring it or don't have an incentive, how many states remain doing this? So of all the 50 states, only 10 continue required statewide evaluation systems. And you have, and I apologize because I know Trustee Statuki had emailed me some questions, and I wasn't exactly clear on the, or correct on the performing piece here, so I am clarifying that here. So of those 10 states, Two are considered very high-performing K-12 education systems, Massachusetts and New Jersey. I'll throw out there, they're incredibly well-funded as well. Not that that makes all the difference in the world, but it doesn't hurt. Mid-level performing, Ohio, Rhode Island, Delaware, North Carolina, Tennessee, and then what are considered low performing, Nevada being one, but then Louisiana and Hawaii. So it appears that there really is no correlation to if you do statewide evaluation systems, that it makes a difference, because you have a scattershot outcome here with these 10 states. Two studies, just to mention, that kind of set up the next slide, but under looking at modern research around the impact of evaluation systems, what does it say about improving performance? So you have this big study that came out in 2021 from some big name colleges and big name researchers that looked at the teacher evaluation reforms that had been happening across 44 states and concluded that these state mandated evaluation reforms had an effect of near zero on student academic achievement in math and reading, as well as high school graduation rates. Other studies found that managers generally were dissatisfied with traditional performance management, which was through the evaluation system. And 59% of employees felt that annual reviews were a waste of time. And so that was more, that wasn't specific to education. This was generic across multiple industries, getting a lot of different feedback. But that research is what led some of these larger, very successful companies like Microsoft, Adobe, and Deloitte to abandon numeric rankings in their annual evaluations and go to a more kind of frequent check-in system, which is something I think more in line with what we see is the frequency of feedback and conversations and coaching, having more value in terms of the professional development of our staff. And one of the things is trying to separate that sort of thing is sort of going on with the NEPF, as Mr. Bringhurst mentioned. There are things that we like in terms of we would be doing this anyway. The concern is that it is the mechanism, how that happens is that it's attached to the evaluation system, and it doesn't need to be. And that's what a lot of these companies have moved away from. So the research saying that these ratings-heavy performance reviews are not effective at improving performance. Big companies around the country have shifted more to, again, this model that we like in terms of the professional growth, but not tied to the evaluation system. And in these modern systems, the modern performance systems are more about the local needs and goals, and then aligning those to organizational objectives, which I think in terms of, we talk about alignment so much, and this is not necessarily an area that we have regularly had conversations about, but ultimately any system of accountability and be it the evaluation or these pieces of professional growth, like you want to have alignment ultimately to those higher level objectives. So then do you still need evaluations? Yes, you do. They don't go away. They remain necessary for accountability and personnel decisions. That doesn't disappear with getting rid of the NEPF. In my mind, and there's different ways this could happen, but I mean, I guess in the simplest terms, if this bill actually got heard and was passed, we would have to do something else for evaluations like that. That's not going to go away, but we would have discretion and not have the rigidity that currently is there, which we think would be of benefit. And so the two questions that are left then is what is the least burdensome process? And I think there is some PTSD with what has been a very burdensome process with NEPF, to still gather the right information for effective accountability and personnel purposes. So we still need that evaluation piece, but there very likely is a way to do it well and not have it be so much work for everyone involved. And then what will actually drive improvement for us. And I think that gets back to what Brandon and our Mr. Bringhurst and Mr. Carsons are talking about, what we believe in here, and the path we are going down is more along the lines of what we think actually will drive improvement. So that's kind of a lot. And I know that's not a typical typical fare maybe for the board in some of our discussions. So very happy to take any questions and thoughts at this time.
Yes, we'll go ahead and start here with Trustee Varner.
Thank you for the presentation. I was wondering, I also want to mention, I guess, that it takes the teachers a lot of time to complete the evaluation. So I don't think we want to forget that piece on top of what the principals are doing. I know it takes a lot of time. And then I'm wondering if we submit this bill draft, do you have to offer any alternative to replacing the current system?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Varner. I will just note my first year in this role, when I was going around to all my listening sessions at the schools, NEPF was a hot topic, talking to staff, talking to our teachers at that time. And that's really where I would say this started, and unfortunately 4 years ago, to finally get to this point. But clearly a lot of our teachers were not happy with how cumbersome it was. So we can propose an alternative. We don't necessarily have to. And that's where I have to do a little more research on what otherwise exists in law around requirements for evaluations. If there are any, everything around NEPF might be it. So we'll have to look at that. There's a reality of when you get into the legislative session and you're talking about bills, oftentimes there is compromise with these things. And so to get it, to get some change, maybe it's not everything you want, but it's along the lines, or it's good movement in a direction, you may have to have some kind of alternative. Legislators very well might not feel comfortable with this going away entirely because it's a significant change. And so maybe there's a baby step in there somewhere, or a couple baby steps, a couple of modifications that get maybe a good chunk of what we want, but maybe not everything. So we have to determine if that is the approach, if we just go in kind of with a clear-cut end to it, or are we offering something else? And we haven't, at this point, it's been more about the clear-cut change, but haven't figured if we would offer kind of anything else, or we would have to offer anything else.
Yeah, I've always found that if someone used to come to me with a problem, I'd want them to propose a solution. So I don't know if the legislature would want something like that in. But anyway, I have another. Is there any ongoing studies now being conducted by any organization like NASB, NAS, about the effectiveness or getting rid of this system now, the NEPF?
Yeah, there's none that I know of regarding the effectiveness as far as like outcomes for students. There is a survey that goes out, I think it's every year, where certified staff, teachers and administrators give kind of feedback on their thoughts on the NEPF. Historically, our staff has not thought exceptionally highly of it, or at least a significant chunk of our folks have expressed their unhappiness through this survey. But as far as can you tie outcomes to it, I don't know of anything going on right now.
I'll just say that I'm in support of the bill draft.
Trustee Peters?
You said this is something that was requested. Is that formally collected kind of request, or is it just in conversation like teachers and admin, or do you solicit any kind of input from the general population of staff of what your bill draft might be?
Have not solicited or like had pointed conversations where this is what we're talking about. Have certainly had many conversations amongst our administrators and teaching staff over the years. I would say, people are generally more willing to talk to you about something they're frustrated about than something they love, right? Right. So I don't know that it's exactly fair to say, that it's not fair to say everybody hates it, right? Because we haven't had those conversations. And based on the survey results we have, we know there are people who view it positively. So that wouldn't be fair. But I haven't had as I've had kind of conversations over time, they generally have been negative from the staff I've spoken with, but have not attempted to have anything else more focused on this topic, or tried to, extract positive thoughts otherwise.
In the selection of what you will present for your bill draft, is it just kind of at your discretion of what you feel as leadership is kind of a rising concern? It's always just kind of grown within the admin office, like what will be presented?
Yeah, and sometimes it's something very specific to us. And so in 2017, the bill we brought forward, it was related to capital funding, specifically for Carson City, our Carson City School District, because we were concerned that we were, at that time, we were worried about building another school, and there was no way we would have funds to build a school. And so that's why we had done that. And in the previous session, Washoe County School District had success passing it eventually was called the WC1 question. I forget what the bill was, but basically that they could go to the voters and ask for more capital funding. So we followed in the next session doing the same thing. Sometimes it's a much bigger thing that we're looking at. It might be something that's bigger that we see as an opportunity, or bigger in terms of we think there's something we can do to improve the system altogether. Two sessions ago, we had brought a bill. It was they were called the Innovation District Bill, and it was trying to. It would have allowed any school district to, with limitations, but if there were certain laws that you could show were particularly onerous for districts to follow and didn't necessarily show that they had a benefit for kids, that you could ask for an exemption from it. That didn't go very far in the session. And so this one, I think, is something bigger as well. And for me, I feel like with the path we're going down, and after years of people voicing frustration, this is just kind of a natural. It's a big thing that I think would make a big difference, and it would be like you would notice the difference very much for all of our people. So trying to, one of the things, outside of our teachers being frustrated, one of the things I know for administrators every spring is that spring break is evaluation time. Like they are not taking a break. Like they spend their whole spring break doing evaluations. And that's just, it'd be one thing if like you were totally slacking off all year long and now it's on you, you're catching up. They're not slacking off all year long. There's just so much as they have kept up through the year, and now it's finalizing everything. So it's a ton of work. So kind of got off topic a little bit, but.
Trustee Roberts?
Yeah, just thank you for all your work on this, and I appreciate you listening to staff as you've had meetings and things, and you two having pretty recently having to go through all of this. I think that's helpful to have that firsthand, experience and bringing this forward. And all of your research Mr. Bringhurst on how long this takes, and I think it's helpful to show that this isn't just your typical evaluation or survey or things like that. And I appreciate your comments as well, Mr. Carson's, about was it Colorado you said where you worked, and that important piece of what are ways that we can improve, what are things that have been proven to show progress, and focusing on those areas where this looks like from the research it hasn't been shown to really improve much. So I appreciate that, those tidbits in there. And then I had the same thought as Trustee Varner as far as offering solutions. Not that you have to come in with this is what we're going to do, but I think it's a good idea to, if we're going to get rid of something, here are some other ideas we have floating, so that it's not just like, well, we don't want to do it anymore. I think it's, like you said, ideas for a solution would be helpful with taking this in. But overall, yeah, I would be in support of this bill.
Trustee Ramirez?
Yes, so I would echo my colleagues. I think that this is definitely, it warrants the consideration to eliminate this. And I thank you too for thinking about doing this, because I know that it's going to be very time consuming to put this draft bill together. But recognizing that it is important, it is necessary for us to make these changes in our district. And so I think that the labor-intensive component and the fact that it's not federal mandate, I think we could be on the safe side, if you will, to move forward with this. One question for you. Have you considered doing a survey to your certified staff to get input from them? It may be helpful, and it may be a supportive documentation that you could include on your bill draft. Just a thought.
Thank you, Trustee Ramirez. I think once we get to the session, if we had information, like updated information from our staff regarding that, we could survey, and that would certainly be something we could include in our presentation and include in this to show. And quite honestly, and I know we got Mr. Wallace back here, and he knows this better than anyone. If we can get some of our, I mean, the timing is always kind of rough, but some of our staff there to actually talk about it, that can be really powerful as well. So yeah, thank you for the suggestion.
So that was a question that I had, kind of bringing in Mr. Wallace. Have we gone to the union on this?
Not up to this point, no.
Would we need to? Because it is,
We-
I mean, isn't that part of their contract?
Well, we may have to make some adjustments to contracts, and
He's back there. He's
Brian,
ready to come
you're
up.
welcome to come up here if you
He's sitting on the edge of his seat.
I think so. What I would say is that the NEPF, when it came into effect, I don't believe, at that point it wasn't something OCA or anyone really had a say over. The state said this is what we're going to do. But Mr. Wallace, you're welcome to.
Brian Wallace, President, OCA, for the record. Previously, we had the Danielson model. Those aspects for that evaluation platform were included in the contract, what that looked like and such. And then, as Mr. Feeling has pointed out, when NEPF was adopted by law, all of that contract language went away and then was replaced with NEPF language. So we adhere by NRS, since the contract can't violate that. Knowing the spirit of community that we have currently with the district and the board, that if this, fingers crossed, were to be adopted and signed into law, doing away with NEPF, the hope would be that all the parties would sit down and move forward with what some type of new model looks like. Your comments about reaching out to staff, it's I can't speak for them all, but especially in and around Eagle Valley, like many of us who are quote unquote highly effective, it's a lot of work, as already mentioned, and it doesn't drive us. there's no reward for it. It's a pat on the head. You know, if you do a great job 2 years in a row and get highly effective, you get a freebie year called the short form. And suddenly you don't have to do any of it, which doesn't seem to make sense. Like, you barely get observed, you don't have to, you set an SLG, your student learning goal, but then you don't actually have to fulfill it either. So aspects of this has never made sense from the beginning. But with one snarky comment, because since I have to go back to work tomorrow full time, people who have never taught apparently knew better than us. Thank you.
All right. The next question I have though too is, because I'm not quite sure how a bill then from a district works. You would have to then get sponsors, correct? Some legislators
so-
are going to have to sponsor this.
So, not necessarily, but it would help greatly. At least, like, the term that I always hear thrown out is like you have someone carrying the bill for you. So I don't know if it's official sponsorship, but I should say the bill back in 2017 that did pass, that actually was not our bill. I'm just, this is kind of flashing back to me. Our assemblyman, it was a bill from Al Kramer as our assemblyman that he sponsored for us. So I think effectively we are the sponsor initially going in, but we would certainly need to work to get some support from specific legislators to help carry the bill for us, because we will be, I think we would present, I think it's 2 times you present no matter what. But behind the scenes, that's where you have no control. So you have to have some legislators that are willing. And I don't know necessarily who that would be. I think what's interesting about this bill is there's no financial cost, but it has a significant impact. And it's not like, this isn't like a political issue. Like, I don't think
Right.
this is a Dem or a Republican thing. I think you can make a fairly reasonable case that this is something that really should be considered and maybe has great benefits, and you don't have to increase per pupil funding to make people happy. So I think we would have to do some work, and it's, I mean, even within the legislature, I think there's elections coming, I guess, but I think there are 5 legislators that are current teachers. So they themselves actually might be willing to support something like this. So we would have to do our research and find out.
And then I'm sure you vetted this through NAS. And what are the thoughts with the other superintendents?
Not yet. So
Oh, yeah.
I've talked about it with a few of the other superintendents. And as far as it coming to NAS, like, ultimately the bill is ours. Once we submit it and then it's kind of official, we'll talk about it at NAS. And with NAS, everybody has to support it. Otherwise, NAS won't support it. And so, like that's, I think, is a really fair thing to do. But I know, at least from some of my conversations with some of the superintendents in talking about this, very much in support.
Okay.
I just don't know that all of them will.
Okay, and then I see through the bill draft as well that there is this must be submitted by September 1st. Are you going to be able to make that deadline?
Yes. Thank you for the question. Yeah, so the purpose tonight is really just kind of explaining it, giving everyone a chance to digest, have some thoughts. And then, I mean, just based on the comments tonight, I think would be interested in bringing it back for consideration for approval at the next meeting. So our next meeting is that second meeting in August. So if it were approved, we'd be able to make that September 1st deadline.
So that second meeting in August, you would have the language that is going to be written in the bill draft, not just the conception.
Yeah, we don't, so in the process, we can draft what, like, sample language that we think it would look like, but we actually submit this document and kind of our idea for language to LCB, and they do the heavy lifting really of, like, making sure the language is correct and citations and all that sort of thing, which I very much appreciate.
Okay. No, from the beginning, I mean, I come from a family of educators, and I thought this was one of the worst ideas that ever went through. And no, I mean, I've mentioned it in several school board meetings as well, that I have never been in favor of it. I don't think it was fair, and it doesn't represent the qualifications of a teacher. It never has, and so I would fully support it as well.
Thank you, President Wall. I would just add to, I think what is really important in this is that there were a lot of folks in the state of Nevada who put a lot of time into developing this. And that's where if you look at all the domains and standards, I don't think anyone would argue that any of these are necessarily are bad. Like, these are all things that we would want our like teachers to do, but really respecting all the time and effort that has gone into this over the years. Have been many people who are still around that have been a part of this. A lot of really smart people, but just think we're at a point where it's okay to see if maybe we could do something better.
Would agree. Any additional questions? Well, thank you for bringing this forward, and we look forward to seeing it at our next meeting. All right, that closes agenda item number 11. Moving on to 12. This is information update on staffing for the, nope, that was 10. So sorry. Now moving on to agenda item number 11, information update on the Nevada Department of Education reduced state reporting requirements for discussion only. Superintendent Fielding.
Thank you, President Walt. This is really just an update of what I think is a really exciting opportunity, and now has in its first step come to fruition for us. So about 2.5 years ago, I think it was, the Commission on School Funding started looking at the reporting burden that was placed upon school districts. There was some work across different organizations at that time, and then they had some help. But what came out of that, and it's hard because, I mean, everyone's just doing reports and doing reports, but the laws that have brought these reports to life are scattered all over the place. So it was this effort of, where are all these reports and why do we have to do them? Like, what is behind all of them? And in the end, the final list was over 400 reports long, which is an incredible burden. And I don't want to, again, there's, I believe, really good intent when all of these things happened, but as humans, we have a like innately additive nature. When we think about improving things, we think we have to add more, and we are not good at saying, hey, we can peel things away to make things better. It's just kind of not how we generally operate. So anyways, 400 reports were identified. And as a part of Senate Bill 460 in the last session, which I would say, to be fair, has mixed reviews, but one of the important pieces in there was, I think it's section 1.7, which eventually became NRS 385-960, is that there is an opportunity for districts, schools, to petition the state superintendent to potentially reduce some of, or to suspend or modify or eliminate some of these reports. And so what has happened is 16 reports have been approved by the state superintendent for the next school year. Not that you don't have to do them effectively. So it's pretty exciting. And I would say equally exciting, and I have to show this because it just should hopefully make you chuckle just a little bit. So this is a report, this is publicly available now. The new Education Service Center, which is like this intermediate educational agency between districts and the state, It's led by Dr. Steve Canavero, who used to be the state superintendent. This is the report. They've done a lot of work on this, and they helped kind of formulate or make strategic decisions on the first reports to petition on. But this is a report that they put out that's 120 pages, and it's a report about the over-reporting. And, it's just, I don't know, I find that beautiful in some way. So anyway, if you want to see a report about too many reports, I have a report for you. And so in this process, when Dr. Canavero went through this, he involved the school districts. We had interviews, a lot of meetings, trying to like wrap our heads around like what is the actual impact of this. And in looking at a limited number of reports, not all 400, but looking at some of these reports that are the most kind of obvious ones to pull back on. It was estimated, and this was, I think, just across 4 districts, that it would save over 5,500 hours for staff that are doing these reports, generate $278,000 in savings, and equated to 139 teacher weeks of work. And part of this too, I think, is really important. And another reason I really appreciate this is I think it really took into account the rural districts and the impacts these reports have on the rural districts. We've talked about this at the district level. We are rather lean, and so the reporting burden is significant. We're lucky that we have some expertise to help generate some of these reports in ways that are a little more efficient, but there's still a lot. You have some of our smaller remote rural districts that do not have people that can do all this work and make it efficient. And so they are just manually putting together massive amounts of reports, and it's a ton of work. And even then too, even for Clark and Washoe, even though they have much more for resources, it's still a lot of time, and it's the resources that they could potentially use in other ways to support their students. So back in the 2025 session, Senate Bill 460 was enacted, which allowed for this consideration to reduce reporting. NAS officially petitioned state superintendent using some of the information from this report on July 15th to ask for the suspension of 16 reports. On July 27th, Superintendent Wakefield responded and approved the suspension of those reports. On August 3rd, there was a follow-up memo that gave some extra guidance because there was questions. The way the initial memo read, it was effective immediately, all of this goes away. And there is a reality to, well, sort of, because we're still finishing the 25-26 reporting year. You still have to do all the reports from last year, but then forward, we're okay. So some of the reports that were replaced, one of the class size reports that we do, industry recognized credentials. And I should say a part of this was trying to identify reports that were duplicative or redundant because the information was already collected somewhere else. It's not like, willy-nilly. Like it's really it's looking at, does the information have value to anyone? And then is it already coming up somewhere else? Were kind of 2 of the primary factors. Industry recognized credentials, that's already done in federal reporting. There's an old technology survey that there's a new technology survey, and they get all the data they need out of that. There's several reports that are within ACing accountability, which was the governor's accountability system that came with all the additional funds that we got 3 years ago. And a lot of that is going to be moving into the new district performance framework, which we've talked a little bit about. So those reports are going to be going away as we transition. And the Read by Grade 3 growth report actually will be in that new district framework as well. So that will be going away. Menstrual products report, parent participation report, lobbying expenditure report, special ed unit application, and the charter school capital report also going away. And again, generally, like, is this useful information? Is it being used for anything? And then is some of this information just showing up in other places and we don't need these specific reports? Also, incident reports, empowerment schools, audit. And I'll say, like, this is one that very much didn't apply to us. We aren't in Carson City allowed to, I think, to have empowerment schools. It was really a Vegas or Clark County thing. But even then, there were no, an empowerment school was like, there was this huge process where a school could sort of gain some autonomy from their school district. There was a lot written on how to do it, but it was so cumbersome to do it that no school, I think maybe one or two tried at some point, but there's no empowerment schools at all. So why this is even in law anymore is it doesn't really make sense. This breakfast after the bell report, because there's already data going through Department of Agriculture and special ed summary of performance, that's already reported on in a couple places. So those are ones that would go away. And I would say too, I think I give great kudos to even the legislature and the governor for including this opportunity in SB 460. Hugely grateful to State Superintendent Victor Wakefield, who was very, very open to this and very thoughtful about it and just supportive of it in the process. While some of these some of these reports are not maybe hugely impactful to us, to me, it's like that first baby step in the right direction, like getting momentum. That's the important thing. And so now we finally have some momentum. And the hope is, the goal is that there likely are more reports coming. There's a lot of work to kind of get this set up. And so there should be more still coming here in the near future. So the reports, again, it's not retroactive to last year. It's really going forward into this year. So it's in the 26-27 school year that these reports would not have to be completed, not retroactive going backwards. Some of this is phase out. So I mentioned the ACing accountability. ACing accountability really is going to go away. But pieces of it are going to end up in that district performance framework. So it's going to continue, but it will, there's just some kind of streamlining that has to happen. Again, elimination of some of these duplicative reports that we have and unused metrics otherwise. The district performance framework, as of right now, the information has slowly been coming out. There's going to be more. There's going to be a final report that's going to come out. So later this summer, there'll be a lot more information coming out about where they're going to be, what it's going to look like kind of in its pilot form. Full implementation is expected then in the following year. And they want to create this kind of dashboard. And I would say very similar to what we have for the NSPF, the school ranking system. You can go to the Nevada report card and see a report on a school. It'll be a similar idea for the district performance framework. So the suspensions that the superintendent has given us on these reports, they expire on July 1st, 2027. So NDE will use all the information we provided and go to LCB with the recommendations. The hope is that then in this next legislative session, these reports will permanently be deleted from NRS, so that will take legislative action. If they don't, then we would have to go back and submit some of this data that we didn't submit. So we just have to be cautious of that to make sure that and again, a lot of this is duplicated in other reports. So we have the data. It's just, it would be nice to only give it once rather than giving it twice or 3 times. So we may have to retroactively do that. But I quite honestly think that is actually unlikely. I think this has some movement to it. And I'd say the Department of Education is very much on board with this, which helps. They want to, I mean, they struggle with resources themselves, and very much would like to be able to be more efficient. And I think as much as this helps us be more efficient, it also helps them be more efficient. So it's really a win-win in that regard. So very much looking forward to hopefully having some more reports that can go away. Maybe we'll have some reports that talk about the reports that have gone. So any questions?
I do, really quick. So you said that there might be more in the near future, but that it has to go to legislature to be eliminated totally. So how does that happen?
Um,
How can he add more if it has to go to legislature?
So he could add more. So if we decide to submit another petition to the state superintendent, let's say we identified 10 more reports that are low-hanging fruit. And if say we did that, 2 or 3 months from now, the superintendent could grant us the suspension for the rest of the 26-27 school year. But then it really would have to happen, I think. I don't know if it has to happen before the legislative session starts, but it would have to be pretty soon thereafter, because they would have to get this information in front of the legislators to make the decision. So I think there's probably still a window where we could potentially have a few more reports eliminated, but then there'll have to be, once we get into legislative session, there'll have to be a pause just because of the timing of it.
And then is the state superintendent asking school districts for recommendations?
They sort of did. They did in this process. So the NDE has been working with this education service center entity. They're very much, they're both state agencies effectively. So they have been coordinating through all this, and there were conversations with all of the districts and a lot of spreadsheets that we had to submit of all these different reports, and what did we think it cost us to do this report? What was the time needed to do the report? So they have this catalog of information on all these reports at this point, and NDE and this Education Service Center, we're very much engaged with the districts in collecting all that information.
Okay. No, I think it's great. Any other questions? Trustee Varner?
I thought, and maybe I was mistaken, but I thought that Clark County was able to get rid of more than 16 reports. Did I misread that? I thought it was something like 40-something. So I don't know if they were granted additional report relief.
I don't think so,
Okay.
but I'm not positive. Things like that happen, but I just don't recall hearing anything about that.
I
May-
could have read
Maybe
something
it's.
different.
There are definitely there's probably another 40 reports that have been identified that will be considered.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, that's possible.
Okay, thank you. And it seems like out of 400 reports, there's more than 16 that could go away.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Roberts? Trustee Ramirez? All right, thank you very much. All right, closing agenda item number 11. We'll move on to agenda item number 12, informational update on staffing for the Carson City School District for discussion only, and this is brought to us by Mr. Karstens.
All right, good evening, members of the board. Dan Carstens, for the record, Chief Human Resources Officer for the Carson City School District. Just want to present a few staffing updates, and I finished this yesterday, and so there's even more updates to the staffing updates. This here is just our new teacher training that happened, last week? And these are all our new teachers up there, nice big smiley faces, and they are happy to be here. Just a quick update on vacancies, and this is kind of a year-to-year update. Mr. Sadler kind of had a template on this, so thank you, Mr. Sadler, for making this report a little bit easier for me. But as you can see, a lot of those vacancy numbers continue to go down. It just shows the health of the district. I'm not going to say it's always easy to hire, but people do seek out our district to find it. And I could point out one of our more recent hires. We had an assistant director of student support services, and we were kind of worried that we weren't going to have a whole lot of people apply because we opened it up in late July. And so that's always a concern when you have an executive level administrative position. We ended up having about 5 very viable candidates. And what that shows is that it's desirable to work here. High-level applicants, and we had some very good interviews. We had a couple of internal people as well. And we actually hired somebody out of Washoe who brings a high level of expertise to our district. So that just kind of goes to show what kind of district we have right now. Positions filled this year. These are not new positions, but new to district employees. The next slide, you'll see a little bit different one though, but you can see we had fewer positions that we filled. And so what does that mean? Well, we did lose a few with some of the reductions in staff. And so that probably reflects this as well. I don't know the exact number, comparatively speaking, of people leaving the district. That's something that I plan to do and seeing what those percentages are of people leaving the district versus retiring and moving around to different schools. So, but again, those numbers go down, right? And that's, to me, that's a good sign. But we did have some other extenuating circumstances as we closed out the year in 25-26. This is one I put together to kind of give you a little bit more of a picture of what's going on. Like for our certified teachers, we actually had 26 in-district change from either a grade level that they were in or from school to school. So we didn't just fill 31 positions, we filled 31, and not necessarily plus 26, but there was obviously some movement around the district, but we also had new people coming in. And then administration, that's always that domino effect. For example, I took this position, and then we had somebody took a principal position, and somebody took a VP position, somebody took a dean position. And so those are those administrative transfers that took place. So there's a lot of the domino effect that takes place when we do the staffing reports and everything. But again, it does show a sign of a healthy district when people do move around. That means a lot of people aren't afraid of change, so that's a good thing. So vacancy rates and fill rates, as you can see, our vacancy rate continues to go down back in 24, 25, and this is for classified positions. We only have 9 vacancies, and I think it's actually down to 8 maybe now, but then it moved back up because I think Principal Pryor back there stole a para from another school, so we had to bump that number back up. So there we go. So that does go to show that we do look from within. We do grow our own, and it does make sense to hire from within. But the vacancy rate, in 24, 25, it wasn't very high anyway, but now it's down to 2.4%, which makes our fill rate at 97.6% of our positions are full. And this is our certified positions. We actually only have, I think now it's 4 because, again, Carrie hired somebody. So that's going to go down to 4. And so our vacancy rate is actually less than 1%. But we're talking certified right now. So our fill rate is right about, 99.1%. So we got that
just above. We're less than 1% away from being fully staffed. Still vacancies by department, still a few out there, not a whole lot. And you can see all those, you can take off the Seeliger first grade teacher and add a Fritsch para. Yes. So those are our current vacancies. I know that some of those positions are being looked at, and like the cook baker for CHS, that one just got posted 3 or 4 days ago. We have to let it post for 5 days before we can interview and hire. So that is something that we do have to wait for. But overall, and I do believe our Mark Twain Sped Para 2 is they're either interviewing or just submitted to hire. So the number keeps going down, and I monitor that most every day. So what's working? So again, retention, competitive salaries, a lot of these things that we saw already, but supportive school board and superintendent, I think we can look at the new hire breakfast and everything. And when AJ was talking about our new hires in tiers because they felt so supported, that's something notable. Again, that doesn't happen in every district. I don't know in my previous districts if we had new hires in tiers because they were so happy. And a lot of that goes to Mary Prey, who organizes that whole breakfast. Early retirement notification. We did have a local career fair in July, and we partnered with EduStaff there too. We invited them in to grow our substitute pool, and also with Boys and Girls Club, because we did focus in on what they do for our staff with providing the childcare and everything. And so we had a member of Boys and Girls Club there to talk with potential candidates and employees. What I just said. Red Rover, again, the application is pretty easy to go through. Mr. Davis does a lot of social media branding, marketing, and he got me involved with an interview that we'll see a picture of here in a second. A lot of word of mouth, a lot of people from the community. The desire is to work here. If you look at a lot of our positions, some of our positions are admin assistant 3 over at Carson Middle had 40 total applicants and 0 from inside the district. So 40 applicants from our community and surrounding communities. So it's a popular place to be. And then our ARL partnerships. And I do also have to say that our partnerships with some of our local colleges, not just UNR, but like a Western Governor or University of, some of these other, Grand Canyon, who do a lot of student teacher placement. And so we work with those schools to place some student teachers to generate interest as well. And here's a couple of things we did. That's a little interview I did with I think it was called 2+U. Is that what it was? Yeah, 2+U Nevada. And so it was, it actually aired on, not live TV, it was recorded, but it was a great little interview right before our job fair. We did a little employee value proposition there. I know that Mr. Sadler had started that. We kind of beefed it up a little bit, made it look all pretty, and made sure that our potential employees can see that and see what the benefits are of working here in the district. All right, questions?
Go ahead and start down with Trustee Ramirez. Do you have any questions?
So thank you for your presentation. One thing that I have been asking and will continue asking is how many of our schools have bilingual staff at the front office? Because I think that is important to make sure that we continue working in getting at least one bilingual person to be at the front office to meet the needs of our large majority of our student population.
Yeah, and while I'm not in all of the schools right now, but I do know that as I was leaving Carson High School, we now have a bilingual counselor and a bilingual admin assistant too in the counseling department. Letty is still stationed at the high school as well. And I can get out there into our other schools and make sure I get that information. Yeah.
Trustee Roberts? Trustee Peterson? Trustee Varner?
Our certified critical labor staff went up from 3 last year to 7 this year. What was the additional positions that needed to be filled by critical labor?
There,
shortages?
yeah, a lot of times what they are special education. We as soon as the last day with kids ends, that following Monday, we can start hiring critical needs, right? And at times, what happens is a lot of times we know our special education staff is moving around or leaving, and we get those posted early. Those are some of the hardest ones to find. That's just the reality of it. And so after that June 4th or 5th date, that following Monday, then we start looking at our critical needs folks. And most of those people that are critical needs are in special education.
Do you know of any others that are not special ed?
I'd have to look at my document again. I had Corey put it together for me, and this isn't my computer.
That's all right.
But I can get you that information to make
I
sure
should
that I
ask
have
you
those
that in
hard
advance,
numbers.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
And if you wouldn't mind getting the, it would just be nice to know what 7 positions are critical need, if you can get those to us later. And this is probably more of a Spencer question, but going from, so we do the projected budget, and we look at what we had, right? And we had 3 critical needs in 2025, not thinking that it was going to go up by 4, which that probably is maybe a couple $100,000. What is the 7 going to do to our budget, or did it do anything to our budget? And if you don't mind, I put you on the spot, and if you totally don't know, you can come up and say, I don't. I'll get that information for you. But I would just like to know what the fiscal impact was from going from 3 critical needs to 7.
If you'll notice, I was not on the edge of my seat, and I tried to stay back as far as I could. However, I'm happy to answer your question. There is a fiscal impact, but we don't really know what that is. But it's not large, because the difference is if we have budgeted for a position, and we kind of use that average, average teacher cost hits us about right in the middle, not a first or second year teacher, not a 20-year teacher. So typically when someone comes in critical needs, they're going to be the top of that pay scale. So it could be an additional $10,000 or $15,000 of salary plus PERS benefits there on top of it. It's not a back-breaking amount for our budget if we have a 4 additional, because we have budgeted for those positions, so it's not like 4 new positions. It's just the difference of we're probably bringing in a veteran person as opposed to a first or second year teacher. So as the dust settles, as everyone gets moved around, as we find out, okay, how many brand new teachers did we have? How many teachers came from other districts with experience? It generally kind of equalizes to where we're not in any sort of budget trouble for having a few more critical need positions.
If you could get us that information, though, the dollar amount, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Yeah, that's all I had. Any other questions? Thank you for the presentation, and congratulations. I mean, it is very good news. And Mr. Davis, I'd like to compliment you on your photo. That was a very great photo. But no, it's congratulations, because we do look healthy, and you are correct. We are a great place to be. Carson City is a great place to live, and Carson City School District is a great place to work. And sorry, your numbers show that. So I know you're new to the position, and if Mr. Sadler's out there watching, If he had anything to do with this, I say congratulations and thank you both for the work that you have done. And, you know, the job fairs, 40 applicants for one position is something to applaud. And so that says something for our school district and it says something for our leadership. So thank you.
Yeah, just real quick, my HR department of two, just the care and assistance they put in with everybody that came in. We had over 50 people this year come in for that local job fair. And just the care that they showed to everybody, helping them through things, helping them upload resumes, transcripts, all that stuff was very commendable.
We'll do extend our appreciation to them as well. Thank you. Okay, moving on, that closes agenda item number 11. Agenda item number 12. This moves us on to agenda item number 13. So sorry. This is discussion and consideration on a list of policies in Section 200 programming that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees intends to review. This is for discussion only, and this is brought to you by me. So at our last meeting, we had discussed that we had gone through Section 100 and that we would be getting into Section 200. So with that, Superintendent Fueling and myself went through, and Renee went through Section 200. Not all of Section 200 needs to be addressed by the school board. Okay, some of them, it is going to be between Mr. Bringhurst and Mr. Carstens and Superintendent Fueling. So we separated those. However, the list was actually still a whole lot longer than I thought it was going to be. And so, so we developed a list, and I think with Superintendent Fueling's suggestion is to be breaking it up, because the list itself has over 20 policies that does affect. Section 200 is actually quite long. There's a lot of policies and regulations in 200. So what we did is we took the policies that the school board directly impacts, and then if they have not been updated for over 10 years, are the ones that are being brought to you today. And so this is just literally saying you have homework now, and your homework will be to review, and we're going to break up this list. Correct me if I'm wrong. This was our direction, correct? Okay. So your homework then would be, we're going to break it up in half, and then I would ask that you review them and come back with suggested changes, if any. Keep in mind, some of them may not need any changes at all. I do ask, though, if they are grammatical errors, if you could please give those to Renee prior to the meeting. But then we're going to go, you'll review them. We'll come back for a first reading. We'll take the edits that everybody has, the suggested edits, and then they come back to us for a second reading, and then we can update those. So does everybody have their pen and pencil ready? Pen and paper. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. And correct me if I'm doing this. Okay, so we have policy. All of the policies have a 0 in front of it, so we're just going to go with 202-P, 204-F, 204-P, 204-R. Okay, sorry. 202- I'll go and then I'll reiterate them, sorry. 204-F, 204-P, 204-R.
And President Wall, just to clarify for everyone, so if it's a -P, it's a policy. If it's a -R, it's a regulation. If it's a -F, that's actually a form that's in the
And so in 204 is homebound. It's our homebound program. So within our homebound program, we have a policy in there, a regulation, and then we have a form. And so we got to look to see if any of that needs updating. Okay? And then we have 206-P, and then 207-P, and then 207 has a regulation, so it's 207-R. And then I had put 207 2.3P is a question mark. And what did would that be one that we needed? Okay, so that was a question mark for Superintendent Fueling, like, hey, is this us or not? Because I wanted to be very cognizant on not stepping on the toes of where, the leadership needs to be. So that would be 207.3-P. Okay, and then 208-P. 209-P. 210-P. 211-P. And then we'll stop there, and then the other half will be after we do the first and the second readings of this, then we can go back. I know it seems like a lot, but some of these policies might be 3 sentences. And again, I'm not saying that we need to, some of them may not even need to be changed. And if they don't, then we don't change it, but at least we can say that they've been updated within the last 10 years. Or previous, right? Okay? Any comments? Did you want me to read?
I would, President Wall, if I could just offer to,
Uh-huh.
if you have any questions, there may be some that are like very specific to certain areas and you're really not familiar with them. I can certainly, if you can reach out to me and I can get you in touch with staff if there's some special, like some of these are special education. So we can get you in touch with Christy Lennox if you have any questions about it, or I'll answer them if I can.
Okay. Yeah, so then, because they are, I think a lot of those at the very beginning are special education, especially like the homebound program as well. And so that would be, if you aren't knowledgeable on it, please reach out to staff and reach out to AJ. And I always ask that if you reach out to staff, please make sure that you always CC our superintendent, so he's aware of the communication as well. Okay. All right, so we will, any questions, comments? All right, you have your homework. All right, closing agenda item number 30. Oh, so go ahead.
When do you want this back?
I was hoping the next meeting, but is that like too much? You know what? How about we do this? If you are looking at this going, once you take a look at this on the policies and you review it, I just ask that you review it, sometime this week. If you could then just reach out to Renee and say there is absolutely no way I'm going to have time for this to be on the next agenda. I think that's fair. Yeah, because I have no idea what's going on in your lives, and yeah, and I know some of us have started school and a lot going on with some kids, so I think that's fair to say no. Molly, 2 weeks is not going to happen. Oh, sorry.
So President Walt, just to confirm or for clarification, if there are suggested changes, will they be submitting that right away or prior to when we would have a reading, so then they could come in that red line form for folks to be able to look at when there is an first reading?
I'm going to refer to our council.
Any changes that the trustees themselves come up with individually should be forwarded to staff. You guys shouldn't work together on any of those. The first time they're presented will be at the first reading. But if you get changes to staff in time, they can put a red line together for presentation and discussion, and then eventually incorporation.
Okay, great. So you all understand, you'll get your, any changes that you see, any edits, send them to Renee. Please always make sure to CC AJ, Superintendent Fueling, I'm sorry. And then she'll be able to have the red line for us to see. And that doesn't mean that you wouldn't have additional ones, but it would be, then give us a better idea. Okay? All right, so thank you very much. And thank you, Renee, for the clarification. Moving on to agenda item number 14, this is approval of consent agenda. Did everybody have a chance to review the consent agenda? Do we have any questions, comments? All right, seeing none, this is an action item. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion by trustee Peterson, a second by trustee Roberts. Public comment? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to agenda item number 15, this is for information items for discussion only. No action will be taken. Do we have any questions, comments about the information? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 16. This is a request for future agenda items. Does anybody have any agenda items that they would like to see? Go ahead.
Yeah, we talked briefly about the critical needs positions. Maybe some update on that at some point in time.
Okay, for the questions that we had asked,
Right, for the questions we asked.
for the answers, okay.
Could I suggest, so if we, Mr. Carson's and Mr. Winward get you that information, maybe when we have our regular board presidents meeting, just once you have that information, you can take a look at it and then decide if you actually want to have that as an agenda item or not.
Okay,
That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
that works. Okay. All right. Nobody else? Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a good back to school, since we will not be here meeting until after school is starts. So I wish everybody a great first couple days, or I guess a great school year. But thank you very much, and the meeting is adjourned.